is there any resolution of this conflict? Here to weigh in, former federal prosecutor Andrew McCarthy and Dawoud Kringle, an imam with the New York City Department of Corrections. Gentlemen, great to see you.
Good to see you, Dave.
Thanks to both of you for coming in. All right, there are questions about the mosque. There are questions about the guy who's going to be running it, the center, the Islamic Center, and the backers of this thing. Let's deal with each of them. The mosque, first of all, according to the Quran, Allah made the earth spacious, right? There are a lot of places where this mosque could go. It is an old one, right? It goes back to the Quran. Why not move it?
Well, first of all, I'd like to address the idea of...
we don't have time to do the first of all. It's over. We got to just focus on the questions because we got two guys.
Okay. Why there? The location has within it the potential to diffuse the quote-unquote Islamophobia by actually giving a tangible manifestation and demonstration of the principles, the spiritual principles of Islam as applied to everybody's lives. The fear that people have of Islam, I've noticed, and believe me, I've talked to a lot of people, is rooted in ignorance in a lot of ways. And the only way to diffuse that would be to show them, not just pay it lip service, but to actually live it, to manifest it, to show them something that they can look at.
But so far, Andy, it's had exactly the opposite effect. Well, it's inflamed tensions even more.
That's exactly right. If your idea is to build bridges and to make a gesture of ecumenical sensitivity, the last thing you would do would be to divide the way this is divided. And I
keep coming back to what happened with the Carmelite nuns at Auschwitz. You know, they were going to have a nunnery, I believe it was, right in the outskirts of Auschwitz, and they fought it for a while, but then eventually they said, look, sensitivities have grown too much, we're pulling out.
Right.
Isn't it time for the Islamic Center to do the same?
I think it's time for Muslims to do the same, and I think a number of them have. There's a divide, I think. It's certainly something that was clear to us doing the terrorism prosecutions in the 90s. You had patriotic Muslims without whom we could not have won those cases.
For those who don't know, you were the prosecutor of the Blind Sheikh. You got a prosecution in that case. Right. These are for events before 9/11, but similar terrorist events. And you could not have prosecuted these guys without help from decent, honest Muslim American citizens.
Absolutely right. But there was a real divide between them and the leadership of many of the mosques and community centers.
All right, let's move to that point, because that's a good point. Some people say that most Muslim Americans have no interest in terrorism whatsoever, and that they
Islam forbids terrorism.
But we know that some Islamic fanatics have gone against that forbidden sect or testament.
And therefore they are no longer can be considered Islamic. They could be Muslim terrorists, but there really is no such thing technically as Islamic terrorism.
But the fact is that there are people who in their community are being led by individuals that are close, that believe, for example, that Hamas is not a terrorist organization. Do you believe Hamas is a terrorist organization?
I would...
That's not a hard question.
Hold on a second.
No.
Is Hamas a terrorist organization? A simple question.
I believe that there's people that's connected with Hamas that advocate terrorism.
Is Hamas, though, a terrorist organization, as the State Department says it is?
I believe that people that exist on the fringe of there. Hamas is a political party that grew out of what happened to Palestine. Obviously, there's going to be people that are going to twist up the religion in order to serve their political agendas.
Part of the problem is with the guy who's involved with this mosque. He did the same dancing around the question we just heard. And with all due respect, you wouldn't answer directly whether Hamas is a terrorist organization as defined by the State Department.
And this is why
the head of the mosque won't either.
This is why Americans have a severe problem. The imam just said Islam forbids terrorism, and I take him at his word that he sincerely believes that. But when you say at one point we forbid terrorism, and then you're asked, is a terrorist organization a terrorist organization, and you can't answer that question, what that tells people is that what we call terrorism, is often called something else. So that, for example, Hamas will say that what it engages in isn't really terrorism, it's resistance. So therefore, I can look you in the eye and say Islam forbids terrorism and still support Hamas. That's the kind of games that people
They're giving me the rap. They gave it to me 2 minutes ago, but I got to give you the last word. Go ahead.
Okay. The Islamic Center at 51 Park Place, as I said, it has the possibility and the very real probability of building these bridges between these different communities. I knew Imam Faisal al-Rauf for years. I know these people for a long time, and I've been speaking to the people who were opponents to this, and the idea of sitting down and communicating with them and demonstrating what Islam really is. And on the other hand, going into some of the other communities, the Islamic Muslim populations that may be inclined towards radical thought, it's the same thing. You know, we communicate with them. I teach them their religion. I do this in the prisons all the time, and diffuse that sort of thought before it can actually grow into a violent
Well, you're
act.
talking now. We're talking. We're on different corners of the divide here. We invite you both to come back and talk about it some more, if you wouldn't mind.
Thanks, David.
Appreciate you both coming back. Coming up on deck, the road